Hi, I'm Cathy with Quilt Beginnings in Columbus, Ohio, and we are here for month 6. We're halfway there. This month is Double Diamond Fade. Here's your kit. And as usual, we're gonna open it up. Here's our quilt. We have it sideways for you because it's just easier to see what's going on with each of the rows when I have it horizontal instead of vertical. And then, just as we always do, we're gonna pull open our kit and we're gonna take our fabrics and tape them to make sure that we can keep track of where we are. This one is very cleverly put together. It looks like it's squares put on point that are all different sizes with different size framings. And in reality, it's made entirely of half square triangles. So this square is made of 4 half square triangles with them all turned towards this guy. These 3 colors go to make complete squares. And then from here on out, we use flip and sew to create these white segments that get wider and wider as we go out our quilt. This side of the quilt goes towards green, and this side of the quilt goes towards blue. So what's cool about this quilt is it's all made of squares. The entire quilt is made of squares, and we're going to do some triangles, and then we're going to do a lot of flip and sew. So let's get started. The first thing I would like to point out is I like to do triangles with the triangles on a roll. So we did this in video 1, so you can go back and refresh if you'd like to how to make your triangles. But you need 4 sets of 14 half square triangles. You can piece them the standard way. So you're going to do this color combination, the blue with the white, and the green with the white. It doesn't look like it's a half square triangle here, but we're going to flip and sew onto this. So let's go over to our cutting station. I've laid out a variety. I didn't put all of them up here because there's quite a few colors going on in here. But we start with our half square triangle units. So we had the blue and pale green and lighter, and then, and then here's the blue with the white and the green with the white. So I went ahead and stacked these up to show you how we're gonna keep ourselves organized while we stitch this. I went ahead and used my 4-inch triangle paper that we used in month 1 to make these sets of half square triangles. I would highly recommend, again, that you clip all of your dog ears as you go through. So these dog ears are still showing. And I left them showing because I wanted you to see that I would press half of my half square triangles to my dark and the other half to my light. Why we want to do that is because when we go to assemble our rows, they end up going like this. They get put together alternating up and down. And so when we go to sew our row together, we want our half square triangle seams to go in opposite directions. So this one's coming this way, and the one underneath is going the opposite direction. I would go ahead and just clip off all my dog ears before I started sewing, but I just wanted you to see that you want to press for all sets of these. Half go to one direction of the fabric, the other half gets pressed to the other. All right, after we get those made, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the white ones, and it has a smaller square that gets laid on top. And then we're going to sew corner to corner and flip that one back. And it ends up with a white section in the middle. If we come back over to the quilt, it's this little piece right in here. So this is the line of the half square triangle where the white was over here. We're covering it up with this square, stitching it. So let me grab my piece. I'll be right back over here. So we have our half square triangle like that. I lay my square on top. I stitch corner to corner, and when I flip it back, I end up with a little tiny white. That's how we're going to make these. So I'm going to show you at the sewing machine a little trick that I use to line it up. So I put a piece of pink tape just coming off of my my needle. So let me put my needle down, and let me just get a ruler and show you how I line this up. I want my piece of pink tape to be right in line with my needle so that my fabric will feed right up on that. So if you look at this, the way I'm organizing my fabric, I'm going to put my square in the corner. I'm going to put this point of the square on the pink line, right along the tip of the pink line, and I'm going to put this tip right at the needle. Then I'm going to sew. And instead of watching any seam allowance, there really isn't any because we're bisecting this square. I'm going to watch this point of my square, and I want to keep it right on the edge of that pink, all the way up till I get to the needle. Clip my thread, and you can chain piece these. You'll make 14 of them, and when I open it, it should equal half, and there we go. Okay, so there's our unit. I go ahead and come back over to the cutting station. I go ahead and trim this off. So I put my 1/4 inch ruler on the seam, cut it off. And then this is the same way. We pressed half of these one direction and the other half the other. So here's my 2 pieces pressed in different directions. Let me cut this one too. You're going to be on your cutting board when you're cutting. Okay, so this one got pressed towards the white. So I'm going to do the same thing with this part. I'm going to press it to the white this way. And this one got pressed to the dark. So I'm going to do the same thing and press to the dark on this one. Then what happens when I go to line them up, my seams will be going in opposite directions. These seams are coming down and these seams are going up. So when I go to put them together, everything is going to nest just as I want it to. It's going to make your corners line up much better. So the secret to staying organized with this is that your green squares are going to get, each time you sew a greener square, it's going to get the next size down. So we started with a 4.5 inch half square triangle, finishing at 4 inches. This square is 4 inches, so when you put it on, it gives you that tiny little strip. Then you're going to take a 3.5 inch square and combine it with a 3 inch square. That 3 inch square is going to come over here and combine with a 2.5 inch square. The 2.5 is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller till you get all the way down here where you have a 1.5 inch square and a 1 inch square. These outside colors are the only place where when you have the 1.5 and the 1 inch, where you use the same fabric for both corners. All the others is the previous small fabric becomes the big fabric of the next one, and then that small one will become the big one of the next one, etc. So once you get them all lined up, then you're going to go ahead and just sew them all. So here's one sewn together. So I sewed corner to corner and corner to corner. I'm going to go ahead and trim it. And then remember, I'm going to press half of them, one towards one of the blues and the other half towards the other. And then I'm going to alternate them when I put my row together. So this one I would press all one way. And then if I make the next one, I'd press it all the opposite. We're going to do that for all our blocks. This one is probably the simplest quilt that we've made. Okay. So if you look, here's our solid. These are our half square triangles. More half square triangles, and our rows, this again, the quilt is on its side, so just imagine it would be horizontal or vertical, but we're going to start in the center, and the rows are put together in a zigzag, which is why we want those seams pressed the opposite direction. Press this one this way, press this one this way. It'll make it go together really easily. Okay, so now that I'm back at the sewing machine, I'm going to put the tip of my square that I'm adding on right on the edge of my pink tape that I have lined up to my needle. I'm going to have my needle right at the other corner, and I'm going to follow that blue tape, keeping the corner of my fabric on the corner of the blue tape. Clip my thread. Make sure you pull your fabric out of your way because you don't want to sew across it. Put your other corner on. They're always diagonal of each other. Line that up under the needle. Line this up at the pink tape or whatever color tape you have, and sew. Okay, you can tell if you got it right across the center because when you go to fold it, it should completely fold in half. So that looks pretty good. And then we're going to trim that back half away. The same over here. I'm going to press. I like to trim it before I press it, but you can see that it's the right size. There we go. And then we'll go ahead and trim to the line there. Notice that the white gets bigger and bigger as the squares get smaller and smaller. Okay, so as we're constructing our rows and we're sewing our blocks together, you can see that the V, it goes in opposite directions. So there it starts at the top in this corner, and down here it starts, whoops, it's so funny to watch, there's a little delay. The V starts in the bottom corner there. So you just want to make sure that you are orienting your rows in the right direction when you go to sew them together. That's going to come out and give us this V, so it goes this way on this one, and it comes this way on the next one, and then this way and that way, and this way and that way. It's really magical the way it just gets bigger and bigger and less color and more white. I think it's a very cool optical illusion on this quilt. So this quilt is by far the easiest one we've done, and I think it'll go together really quickly for you. So just remember, greens go on one side, blues go on the other. The big square becomes the small square, or the small square becomes the big square the next. Press half your seams one direction for every row and the other half the other direction. It'll make your rows go together a lot easier. Have a lot of fun piecing this, and we will see you next month.